The UCS Death Star has finally been revealed, the biggest set of 2025, as well as the most anticipated LEGO Star Wars set. Releasing on October 1st, they retail of $999.99 in the US. And now, with all of our official images of this set, as well as the gift with purchase, we have a lot to talk about. So, without further ado, let's get right on into this video. Now, we've already seen a few images of the Death Star in the past, but now we have the clearest images that we have ever had. We have all of the different rooms that we have seen previously, as well as a couple of angles for rooms that we hadn't seen already. And like I have stated before with all of the previous rooms and dioramas, definitely all looking very good, and this just goes to show with all of the new images, they look even better. A couple of the ones that stick out to me that appear different now in these images, especially with the main area with the interrogation where you have all of the lights based off of the walls. I think that looks very good, as well as the angles that they were able to capture throughout all of the different computer areas. I think they all look very good. Now, a big thing that looks like is present here is that the elevator might actually be able to move. Now, there's nothing confirming that just yet, but using our context clues as well as stuff from some of our different images, it does look like, first of all, there is a bit of Technic built into the bottom layer of the elevator, which would, make it sense that it would be able to move. And given the fact that the elevator shaft is lined up perfectly throughout the entire Death Star, it wouldn't be too hard for LEGO to implement some sort of feature where you could raise and lower the elevator, which would definitely be a lot of fun. But moving back to all of the other rooms, one of the rooms now that we see that we couldn't see before is the actual hot tub, which is tucked all the way up top. Now, a couple people are a bit disappointed that it wasn't more front and center, as well as it not including more of the hot tub stormtroopers, but it was a very fun thing to be included, and it is kind of nice that it is tucked away so it doesn't take away from the rest of the build. But overall, I have to say, looking back at this build, these higher quality images, we definitely have a lot more detail than people thought that was going to be here, as well as just having it flow together a lot better, as well as having all of the unique angles that we didn't really see in the first places of the images. Now, moving on to some of the in-hand images of the Death Stars where we get the most information. The first of which is all of our minifigures on this stand. Now, from my understanding, this isn't a stand that's actually included in the Death Star, and I think that is very disappointing, especially because LEGO is here advertising all of their minifigures on a stand. It would have been very easy for them to throw together, but right here it looks like it is made out of some sort of wood, and it easily could have been made out of LEGO bricks, which would have been great. Just looking at the stand showing off all of the minifigures looks amazing, but unfortunately, I haven't heard anything about a stand being included in this set. I would love if that was the case, but it doesn't look likely, but I think it would have been perfect, and it's really sad to see that they're advertising them, all the minifigures, on a stand and not including one in this build. But looking toward all of the minifigures on the stand, which are all the minifigures that we saw earlier, I will restate that I am a little bit disappointed that, or not even a little bit, I am quite disappointed that most of these officers do not have dual molded legs. I understand it wasn't a necessary thing for some of them, but especially with all of the officers in the gray, they definitely should have had dual molded legs. For $1,000 set, you should have been getting dual molded legs. I think that's almost unacceptable. I think it is unacceptable that we're not getting dual molded legs for a $1,000 LEGO Star Wars set, but we get them in cheaper sets all the time. I think that it is just very annoying, and I think LEGO knows what they're doing with not giving us those dual molded legs. But as for the rest of the minifigures, they all look pretty good. None of them stand out all that much to me, I will say. I think that Galen Urso as well as Director Krennic are some great inclusions. The Imperial Dignitary is a very cool one. However, I think that they're definitely lacking quite a bit of detailing on the skirt as well as the hat piece. But all the other ones are just kind of the normal characters that you'd expect to see in the same minifigure forms that we've seen them previously, with a little bit more or less detailing, give or take which character we're looking at. And I don't see the Hot Tub Trooper in this photo. It's probably stashed away somewhere else, but that is still a very nice minifigure that I'm very excited to get in hand. Now, our next photo shows the Death Star on someone's kitchen table, as well as next to an actual person, which does bring this in to see how big this set actually is, taking up like the entire upper half of this guy's torso and pretty much being about half the size of the table. So this set is massive. That's definitely no secret, being a very, very large set. And it's actually a little bit surprising to see how big the actual like outer shell is, especially toward the bottom in comparison to some of the previous photos that we had earlier. So I think that is very cool to see. I really wish that we had some images of the backside of this set, though. It's still something that we haven't seen that I'm very curious about, and that would also kind of make us find out if there was an actual working elevator or not. That's something that I am very interested in seeing if it's there or not. So looking toward this does look very cool, and it's definitely massive in comparison to this guy. But moving on to some of our other images, we actually get some better photos of inside of the Death Star. And now the first one that we have is the little trash compactor scene where you have Chewbacca, Han, Luke, as well as Leia in the small little trash compactor. This is a very small version in comparison to the trash compactor diorama that we got, which I think is a good thing. I don't think that the chute goes down here, though. I think that would have been very cool if you could drop them from the chute above and they'd fall into the trash compactor. That would have been a great addition, but it doesn't look like it is here. And I do think that you can close the doors based off of that little Technic thing on the side, as well as the fact that the doors are mounted on the small little black Technic area. Now moving to the right is what I was talking about earlier, with the little bit of Technic on the area for the elevator, as well as what looks to be a sliding door for the elevator. And this is what leads me to believe that there could be a working elevator in the set, which would be great. And we also have some other images, like moving on to the Emperor's throne room, which is very interesting because if you look behind, you can see there's like a blue illuminating light. And this very well could just be something from the background, or, you know, Lego's doing some editing magic to make it look more appealing than it actually is. Or there could be some sort of smart brick in this set. Now, I highly doubt that there would be anything like that in this set, as cool as it would be. From my understanding, this is just a little bit of photo magic to make this look a bit more appealing, but that would have been cool to see with the blue light in the background. Looks very cool. But as for the detailing on this room, it looks amazing, especially with the curved rails and all of the railings and guardrails that make this up, and having the different levels and the detailing on the wall, as well as the overall archway. This is very similar to the Emperor's throne room diorama that we've already gotten, but it just looks so cool integrated into the overall Death Star. And I think Lego definitely cooked when it comes to this room. Has to be one of my favorites out of all of the rooms in the Death Star. Next, we have a better view of the hangar bay, which is very cool to see. And I have to say that this is looking very, very cool. You have your stormtroopers as well as your Imperial shuttle driver standing out there, and you even have the hole in the floor, which is very cool. It's something that we didn't see with the other images. Now, something worth bringing up is the amount of stickers that are present throughout the set. Looking at the floor especially, you can see just all 6 stickers laying there, which don't look too good, especially when they're used on that snot technique. I'm really not a fan of that, but really wish that could have been printed. It's very sad that it wasn't, because I think those easily could have been printed on tiles. So a little bit sad to see that, but you can see the snot technique that is used throughout the floor, as well as having these small studs put in on different spots. You can put your minifigures all around. You have a crate, you have C-3PO as well as R2, and then the background area with all of like these stars looks very, very cool. I'm very happy that they ended up doing that, and I think it's a very good way to signify the open hangar bay door without needing to, you know, have a big open area in the back of the Death Star. I think that looks very cool. And then moving to the right of the Imperial shuttle, you have that other stud technique, which I think looks very, very nice. And then above that, a better look at the actual room area with all of those stickered pieces for the control panels, but still looks very, very nice. But now moving on to the actual build for the Imperial shuttle, a very small one, but also utilizes the snot technique very well, and it does look very nice and clean. Now, if we move to some other images, we actually have this in the hand of the person who is next to the Death Star, and it's pretty small, about the size of his hand. So you're not really going to fit anything in the back, which is a little bit sad, but you do have room to put your officer or your actual driver into the cockpit, which is pretty nice to see. The top wing looks like it could have been a little bit longer, but other than that, it is a nice small little model. Ideally, it would have been bigger, but if it was bigger, it couldn't fit in the hangar bay, so I'm not too mad about that. Now, moving on to the next indoor image, we have the actual conference room with all of our officers, which looks very cool. The circular table as well as the chairs sitting around it, which are on the little swivels. But I think the coolest thing about this is the back wall. The shape that Lego was able to create, as well as all of the texturing, just looks very cool. And overall, I think this is a great room, even having Darth Vader there as well, so you can recreate some of those iconic scenes. It's a great one to see. Next, we have a little bit of the building process of having half of the Death Star, and we see it on its back as well. And this happens to be a pretty thick set, and you can see toward the bottom the actual way in which Lego is going to have this all mounted with those little black bars connecting to the main portion of the ship, and I'm assuming will be built up all the way throughout, which is pretty cool to see how this is going to be held up and have a strong foundation, because this being a pretty heavy set, definitely a very necessary part. Then moving, we can see it head up. Once again, still being constructed. I feel like this one may not be a fun one to put together. Definitely going to be a long process, coming in at over 9,000 pieces, but it does look to be a little bit modular in the sense of you build each room individually and then put them on, which is cool to see, which I think will definitely make the building experience a pleasant one and won't be too repetitive. Now, maybe the most interesting image is moving on to this last one, where we actually see the TIE Fighter give with purchase, and oh boy, it doesn't look good. It looks like a 4+ set in my opinion. Now, I'm not someone who is a big fan of this. I wasn't a fan of the TIE Fighter gift with purchase in general. Now, I will say it's very cool that it's able to be put up top into the Death Star. However, if it's going to be integrated into the Death Star, why is it a gift with purchase and why isn't it not just included in the Death Star? We have the space. It's easy to like put up there and it fits just fine. I think it's kind of ridiculous that this is a gift with purchase instead of being included in the set that you're paying $1,000 for. So that is a little bit sad to see. Not even a little bit. It's very sad to see. They should have included this into the set, and then they should have, made a different gift with purchase. I think that having this tiny little TIE Fighter as a gift with purchase, as well as it, being like, it looks like it fits in the Death Star very cool. It goes up on the top of the mount, and it actually has the like landing area as well. It definitely should have been included in the Death Star. It shouldn't have been the gift with purchase. I'm not going to yap about that too much because I've already talked about it so much in the past. I think this build looks really sad, and it's definitely just shouldn't have been the gift with purchase in my opinion. Some people were a little bit, disagreeing with me on that, but I stand by that. This definitely should not have been the gift with purchase, and it should have been included with the Death Star. But that does it for all of our different images. We definitely have a lot of really cool stuff, and this is still shaping up to be a very exciting set. However, it's still a pretty overpriced set at that $1,000 price tag, in my opinion. I feel like this is definitely one that you should wait for it to go on sale. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below in the comments, and let me know if it's one that you'll be picking up on day one, or waiting to go on sale, or passing altogether. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay safe. Drew, signing out.